This lesson we're going to be solving absolute value equations. So let's start off with a basic one. If we have the absolute value of x and it gives us an answer of 6, that means my x could either be a positive 6 or it could be a negative 6. Same as if we had the absolute value of x is equal to 10. Our x could either be a positive 10 or a negative 10. So when we solve for absolute value equations, then we're going to have to come up with two separate equations, one where it gives us a positive value and the other where it gives us the negative value. So here are the steps to solving absolute value. So for the steps for solving absolute value, the first step would be to isolate the absolute value. So it would look like this or anything inside the absolute value sign you have to isolate. Once you isolate it, then you're going to create two equations, one with the positive 10 or the positive answer and then one with that negative answer. Once you set up your two equations, you solve for x. So let's go ahead and put that into practice. This is my first example. My absolute value is already isolated, so we're going to create my positive equation, x plus 2 equals 6, and then my negative equation, x plus 2 equals negative 6. And then you just solve for x. Subtract 2, x is equal to 4. And over here, we also subtract 2, x is equal to negative 8. So the two possible answers for this one is 4, negative 8. Let's do another example. Got the absolute value of 3 plus 2x is equal to 12. So our absolute value is already isolated. So we get our positive value where our 12 is positive, and then our equation with then we solve, oops, that was 2x. Then we solve for x. So the two possible solutions here would be x is equal to negative 9 over 2 and 15 over 2. Let's go ahead and do another example. For this one, our absolute value is not isolated. We need to get rid of that division by 6. So we do the inverse, and the inverse of dividing by 6 is multiplying by 6. So we're going to multiply this left side by 6 and the right side by 6. These two cancel. We get 2x plus 5 absolute value is equal to 24. Now that my absolute value is isolated, now we can create our two equations, the one where my 24 is positive and then the one where my 24 is negative. And then we solve for x. So the two possible solutions here is 19 over 2 and negative 29 over 2. Okay, let's do one final example. 2 times the absolute value of 3x plus 7 equals 20. We first want to get rid of the plus or minus because we want to isolate this absolute value. So we're going to subtract 7, and then we're going to divide by 2 because we still need to isolate that absolute value of 3x, and since 2 is being multiplied by the absolute value, we want to undo that and divide it. So because 2 is being multiplied by the absolute value, we want to divide by 2 to undo that. So we get 3x is equal to 13 over 2 absolute value. So now we're going to create our two equations, one where my absolute value is positive, so 3x is equal to, and we're going to estimate, or we're going to write it as a decimal, and this would be 6.5. So we're going to rewrite this with 13 over 2 being a decimal, 6.5. So now we're going to create our positive, and then we solve for x. Divide by 3 and divide by 3. So our possible solutions here would be negative 2.25 and positive